What up, everybody? It's the Rottweiler Patriots. I'm Vegas.
And I'm T-Bone.
And we're coming at you with another video today where we're going to be doing our Week 15 predictions. This is where we talk about each matchup in Week 15 and predict who we think will win each one. We are competing over the course of the entire season. Last week I went 6-9, my first losing week all year, and T-Bone went 8-7, winning the two games that we differed on to bring his total up to 128 and 80, and my total up to 126 and 82. So T-Bone took it from a tie to a two-game lead for him. But we got a lot of juicy ones this week, and there is plenty of opportunity for this script to be flipped. With that being said, let's jump right into it. First things first, no more buys for the rest of the season. Every week from here on out, we'll have 16 games. All 32 teams will play. Everyone has a game every week for the rest of the year. And with that being said, let's jump into our Thursday night football matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Raiders coming off the worst loss of the season by any team in the entire league, in my humble opinion. A 3-0 loss to the Minnesota Vikings in what was just one of the worst football games of all time. That game was, the last time the NFL had a 3-0 game, it required a monsoon. This game was played indoors. That's how bad it was. It's been a bad year for the Raiders, and Josh McDaniels gets fired. It looks like, oh, it might be getting a little better, and then no, it's right back to the pits of hell for them. Whereas the Chargers, also having a pretty rough year themselves, had high hopes heading into this season, but it's just been disappointment after disappointment, and now Justin Herbert is done with a finger fracture. And so their season goes from bad to worse, and I mean, it's basically over for both of these two teams. They're just playing for pride at this point. T-Bone, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, they definitely are playing for pride, and both are going through it, that's for sure. But that being said, I really think this is going to be the game that proves how kind of weird the AFC West has been. And this is going to seem as kind of an upset, but I've got the Raiders actually winning this one, despite their, scoreless game last week.
I've got the Chargers winning this one. I don't know, man. Just Easton Stick has a great name. Great name. Seen a lot of hockey jokes. That's all I got. These two teams suck, and without Justin Herbert, the Chargers don't have much. But the Raiders are coming off such an awful performance that, I don't know. Give me the Chargers. Alrighty, up next, we got the first of 3 Saturday games this week. We've got ourselves the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Bengals coming off a blowout win over the Indianapolis Colts, and they have started to pick it up a little bit, starting to figure things out, even with Joe Burrow out for the season. It's been a pretty good last couple of weeks for them. They're playing great football and putting themselves in position to try to make the playoffs, whereas the Vikings, coming off of the worst win in a while, probably worst win of the season, 3-0. You thought 6-0 Chargers over Patriots was bad. What about 3-0 Vikings? No points were scored until the 2-minute warning of that game, which is wild. That game was so bad, but the Vikings managed to win it. Josh Dobbs getting benched. Both teams, 7-6, star starting quarterback out for the year, trying to fight for a playoff spot, so it's a pretty big one for both teams. T-Bone, your thoughts?
No, it is going to be a very high-intense game with how, what this game means for both teams. That being said, the game last week was really telling about how both teams are handling their quarterback loss. So with that in mind, I have the Bengals.
I also have the Cincinnati Bengals winning this one. They have just been playing better than the Vikings last few weeks. The Vikings, won last week, but it was awful. They played terrible, and they play the Patriots last week. They probably lose. Vikings had their fun in the sun, but they're starting to fall apart a little bit. So, I got the Bengals. Alrighty, Saturday game number 2. We've got ourselves the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Colts coming off of an absolute shellacking against the Cincinnati Bengals, in which it was just a not great performance from this is a team fighting for the playoffs, fighting to possibly, outside chance, win their division. They take a big loss to a Bengals team that's starting to heat up. So they're going to need some results here, and they got an opportunity against a really struggling Pittsburgh right now if they want to make the playoffs. Whereas the Steelers, coming off of an ugly loss to the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football, they will be heading into this one with a couple extra days of rest, but they just lost to the 2-10 Cardinals and the 2-10 Patriots, so their performance right now isn't exactly ideal. T-Bone, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be one of the games of all time. I mean, I think it's going to be really hard to watch. Both teams are kind of just played but that being said, I do think that the Steelers are going to stutter a little bit more, and I've got the Colts.
I also have the Colts. Steelers gonna find some way, maybe. I don't know. This might be the year that Tomlin's 500 streak falls apart, but I don't know. Both teams need to win this one for their playoff hopes, but the Steelers just haven't been good the last few games, and I have a hard time seeing that change. So I got the Colts in this one. And for Saturday night, we've got ourselves the Detroit Lions taking on the Denver Broncos. The Lions coming off of a tough loss to the Chicago Bears, in which they never really looked terribly in it. It didn't look very good from Detroit. They've been on a bit of a skid the last few weeks. Their quality of play has definitely been going downhill compared to where it was at the start of the year, and they got to figure something out, turn things around at this point in the year. Whereas the Broncos, coming off of a nice win over the Los Angeles Chargers, pretty comfortable there, and they have primed themselves to take first place in the AFC West. They just need the Chiefs to slip up, and so it's going to be a fun game here. Both teams have a lot to fight for at this point, and both teams are, I'd say, are very similar in terms of how good they are, so this could be a very entertaining game. T-Bone, your thoughts?
No, I really think this is going to be an interesting game, a really fun game to watch, like you said, because of just what it means for both teams. I think this is going to be a little bit controversial. I've got the Lions coming in and beating on the Broncos. I think the Broncos could win this. I definitely think this is one of the closer games. I've got the Lions, though.
I have the Denver Broncos headed up to Detroit to get the win and continue pursuing the playoffs. I just think they're playing better than the Lions right now. The Broncos are on the up, the Lions are on the down, and I think the Broncos are probably past the Lions in terms of how good they are. I mean, if you look at our power rankings, you could see we think that's the case, but I got Denver. Alrighty, now we're on to Sunday. We've got ourselves the New Orleans Saints taking on the New York Giants. The Saints coming off of an ugly win over the Carolina Panthers, where if you look at the score, you think, oh, that was a pretty comfortable win, and then you actually watch the game, and you're like, what even am I watching? Can I please claw my eyes out? It has been a rough year for the Saints. Coaching has not been great. Play hasn't been great. Derek Carr has not lived up to expectations, and they're still somehow in a position to make the playoffs, given everything else. They're very fortunate with how bad their division is, but it was definitely theirs to lose, and it looks like they're losing it. Whereas the Giants, coming off of a massive upset win over the Green Bay Packers, Tommy DeVito shining under the bright lights in New York. He's been playing pretty good for them, giving them a little bit of life. I mean, their season is basically over, but they have an outside shot at the playoffs if they're able to continue winning football games, and, you know, with as bad as everyone else has been, who knows? T-Bone, your thoughts?
This is going to be an interesting one because I really was ready to write the Giants off, but I'm not so sure anymore. 3 straight wins, 9-8 still possible, man. So with that being said, even though, the box score did look bad against the Saints, given how much they've kind of struggled and at what momentum the Giants have, I've got the Giants.
I also have the Giants getting the win here. They've been better than the Saints the last few weeks, and with the Saints, I don't know, it's been so ugly from them that I have a hard time seeing them turn around. It's been ugly from that entire division, though, so it's the most random division ever, but everyone sucks. But I think the Giants able to get the job done in the Superdome. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Cleveland Browns taking on the Chicago Bears. The Browns getting a tight win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Joe Flacco looking pretty darn good this week. Obviously some questions about the defense, the way they played against Jacksonville, but offense able to operate pretty efficiently against a probable playoff team, and showing the Browns aren't out of it yet, and they put themselves in a great position to make the playoffs with that win. Whereas the Bears, coming off of an upset win over the Detroit Lions, showing that they still have some fight left in them. Justin Fields looked pretty good, had maybe his best game of the year, and so this is a pretty big game for both of these teams. T-Bone, your thoughts?
This is definitely going to be a big, big game against both of them. Battle of the Orange, one could say. And I think that the Bears are better. They're getting better. With that, though, I'm having trust in Joe Flacco. I think he said so. This is his last ride. He's playing great. Give me the Browns.
I also have the Browns winning this one. Even with the Bears feeling like they're doing a little better the last couple of weeks. Got a couple upsets. I don't see him upsetting the Browns. I think the Browns defense is going to do what they need to do, and Joe Flacco is going to do enough to put the Browns over the top against Chicago. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Carolina Panthers hosting the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers coming off of an ugly loss to the New Orleans Saints, in which the run game, Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, had a good game. The rest of the team, well, I don't think Panthers fans want to talk about it. I don't know. T-Bone here definitely doesn't want to talk about it. He's the Panthers fan. So, it's been a rough year for Carolina. 1 win, and that was by 1 point against the Texans. Yeah, it hadn't been pretty for them. Whereas Atlanta, coming off of a tough loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to bring them, the Buccaneers and the Saints, all even for first place in the NFC South at 6-7, with the Buccaneers holding all tiebreakers. It's just been an ugly year for Atlanta. They've been up, down, left, right, all over the place. Desmond Ridder actually looked pretty solid in the last one, but at the end of the day, the Falcons weren't able to get it done against a Bucs team that had been struggling the last few weeks. T-Bone, your thoughts?
Yeah, this has been it's annoying because, how bad the NFC South is. You're like, if you're a little bit better, you could win it, but it's going to be just an odd game. But with that being said, I've got the Falcons. I don't know. It's just at this point, it's I don't know.
I also have the Atlanta Falcons, because at this point it's like, hey, look, man, you might be the Atlanta Falcons, you might suck, but at least you're not the Carolina Panthers. And I think we're going to see that this week. No offense.
None taken.
Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Green Bay Packers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Packers coming off of an upset loss against the New York Giants. kind of ended their little win streak there. Packers, though, had a bit of a hiccup last week, but generally have been looking pretty good the last few weeks. Their season on the uptick, and they're in a position to try to sneak into the wild card, and they need to win this game if they want a good chance at doing that. Whereas the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off of a big win over the Atlanta Falcons to catapult them into first place in the division with 4 games to go. This is obviously a really big one for them as well if they want to be able to make the playoffs. So 2 teams fighting for the playoffs, both needing wins if they want to do it. T-Bone, your thoughts?
Once again, another because of how the season has gone. There's so many teams in these final games that are wanting to really make a push. So, given that though, I think they're going to have a little bit of a comeback. I got the Packers.
I also have the Packers winning this one. A loss hurts the Packers more than it hurts the Buccaneers. The Packers have more to play for. They've also, I think, been the better football team as of late, even with the Buccaneers. Been doing a little bit of winning the last couple of weeks. It's been largely against not-so-good teams, so I think Green Bay gets the bounce back they need, gets the job done against Tampa. Alrighty, up next, we've got ourselves the Miami Dolphins taking on the New York Jets. The Dolphins coming off of an upset loss to the Tennessee Titans, in which they gave up a 14-point lead with less than 3 minutes to go. An epic choke job by the Dolphins, which I think kind of shows what kind of team the Dolphins are. Their record is definitely inflated, benefited from a poor schedule. They're still a good squad with some talent, but there's definitely a lot of questions that got to be answered by the Dolphins. And this game against the Jets almost feels like it's a test for them, as the Jets are coming off of a big win over the Houston Texans. Absolutely dominated them. Zach Wilson looked good. That's a weird sentence to say. In his first game back as the starter after being benched, he's been all over the place. He's had some very good games, had some very bad games. You never really know which version of him you're going to get, but the Dolphins did destroy the Jets 34-14 just a few weeks ago. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I've got the upset. I've got the Jets, man. I feel like Zach Wilson's going to take a step forward and Tua's going to fumble a little bit.
I have the Miami Dolphins winning this one. Down in Florida, I think it's going to be Miami. I have a hard time seeing them lose to the Jets, even with the Dolphins being as disappointing as they are and the Jets having played as well as it did last week. The Jets rarely ever play that good 2 weeks in a row, so I think they're going to have a coming back down to earth moment, and the Dolphins are going to take care of business. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the New England Patriots taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Patriots coming off of an upset win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, their 3rd win of the season, in which their offense looked a little bit better. Bailey Zappi played a pretty good game, and they were able to take care of business against a struggling Steelers team. They've had a tough time closing out games against struggling teams, but they're able to do it this week and coming to this one on a high, hosting Kansas City, who are coming off of an upset loss to the Buffalo Bills. Obviously some controversy in that one with the refs and everything that happened around that whole situation. But in the end of the day, they did lose, and so they need a win this week, especially with the Broncos hot on their tail for that division lead. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I've got the upset. I've got the Patriots. I can't really quantify why. I just trust me, okay? Trust me.
I said it before the season starts. It was my big, bold Patriots prediction that they would beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and I am standing by it. The New England Patriots will beat the Kansas City Chiefs this week. I don't know. I feel good about this one. A week ago, I was like, oh, we're going to get destroyed, aren't we? This week, I feel good. I have a good feeling about this game. And, you know, it's Kansas City. We've kind of owned them, you know, just because. We're the Patriots. We do that to teams who we normally
Patriots own some people, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we may be bad, but at least we own the Steelers. That's just kind of how it is. So, I got the Patriots beating the Chiefs. There's no real reason to think this, but, you know, Patriots play as well as they did last week. Defense able to shut down the Chiefs' offense, make it a low-scoring game. They might have enough firepower in them, especially to Mario Douglas returning to get it done, so I have the upset. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Tennessee Titans taking on the Houston Texans. The Titans coming off of an upset win over the Miami Dolphins, which they put up 15 points in the final 3 minutes. Will Levis coming in clutch in that one. Levis looked pretty good. The Titans won their last couple of games, and, you know, their season's kind of over, but if they're winning out, they might be able to salvage a playoff spot. Obviously, it's going to be a tall, tall task for them, but they're not out of it yet. They still got some fight left in them, and they got a big one headed in this game against Houston, where Houston coming off a blowout loss to the Jets. Massive upset. Houston have been up, down, left, right, all over the place this year. Obviously, injuries really hurting them. C.J. Stroud less effective without weapons like Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, but they still got an opportunity against Tennessee this week. The Jaguars did lose as well, so the Texans are still only 1 game back of that division lead. T-Bone, your thoughts?
It's gonna be a somewhat tight race for the South, and this win could be very, very, you know, important to both. I don't think the Titans are going to win this, and I don't think that they're going to, you know, make it to the playoffs or anything. However, I think they're going to be excited for the future because they have found their starter. Will Levis is that guy, but give me the Texans.
I also have the Texans winning this one. The Texans just need a win so badly right now, and I think the Titans, as well as they played the last couple of weeks, are an opportunity for the Texans to get the bounce back they need to try to position themselves to overtake the Jags in that division race. Alrighty, up next, we've got ourselves the Arizona Cardinals taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The Cardinals coming off of a bye week. They're going to have an extra week of rest headed into this divisional matchup against the 49ers. Beat the Steelers in an upset the previous week, although the Steelers have just lost to 2 and 10 teams in a row, so it might be more a Steelers thing than a Cardinals thing. Whereas the 49ers coming off a pretty solid win against the Seattle Seahawks, in which they went in, did what they needed to do, got the win. So they're coming in massive favorites here against Arizona in Phoenix. I mean, 49ers win basically keeps their hold on the 1 seed. Cardinals don't have a lot to play for. And for fans I think want to see him lose just because draft picks. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I completely agree. I think this is going to be a pretty open and shut game. I've got the Niners.
Yeah, Niners have been the best team in the league. The Cardinals have been not even close to that. I've got San Fran getting business done. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Washington Commanders. The Rams coming off of a tough overtime loss against the Baltimore Ravens, in which they looked really, really good against one of the best teams in the NFL, put up a tough fight, made the Ravens have to work for it, but in the end just couldn't finish the job. But I think it's still a reason for optimism for the Rams going forward and their chances to make the playoffs. Whereas the Commanders, coming off of the bye week, they're going to be well rested headed into this one week before they got absolutely destroyed by the Miami Dolphins. So they obviously are going to want to bounce back here. They've had a rough season and need a win to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. T-Bone, your thoughts?
They do. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Rams have just too much momentum. I've got the Rams.
I also have the Los Angeles Rams getting the win this week. They are the better football team. They're playing great right now, especially with everyone back from injury. Matthew Stafford looking good, Puka Nacua, everyone. It's just been Kyron Williams' breakout season. It's just been a great year for them when they're not hurt. When healthy, they're a scary, scary football team. Alrighty, up next, we've got ourselves The Buffalo Bills taking on the Dallas Cowboys. The Bills with a big upset loss over the Kansas City Chiefs. Tight game, able to get the job done at the end. Not something you see often from them against the Chiefs. Obviously, the two teams have a bit of a history, but it's a much-needed win to keep their playoff hopes alive, and it's a big one here they got coming up against Dallas, whereas the Cowboys, coming off of a big win over the Philadelphia Eagles to catapult themselves into first place in the NFC East, and they're tied currently with the 49ers in record. 49ers do have the tiebreaker over them, beating them head-to-head 42-10. So Cowboys going to need to win more games than the Niners if they want that 1 seed going out. But this is a really, really, really big game for both teams. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I'm just going for a lot of upsets. I've got the momentum on the Bills. I'm going to go with the Bills.
I think the Cowboys are just playing too well right now for the Bills to be able to beat them. I think the Bills can make this a competitive game, but I also think last week's win was part the Chiefs being worse than they seem. So I think the Bills can definitely make it a fight, but with the way the Cowboys are playing, especially with that win over the Eagles, I have a tough time seeing them get the win over Buffalo. Alrighty, up next, it is Sunday Night Football. We've got ourselves the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Jags coming off of a tough, I guess you could say, upset loss to the Cleveland Browns. They've been inconsistent. They've had it a bit rough this year. Obviously, a lot of questions, but with the Texans falling to the Jets, they still hold on to first place in the AFC South, but a big one here against Baltimore, and a big test for them to show how good are they really, whereas the Ravens had a bit of a test last week against the Rams, were able to get it done in overtime. A comeback win showed how truly tough and gritty this team is. So this one big for both teams. Ravens obviously pursuing that #1 overall seed, currently the holders of it, but they're going to have to fight to maintain it. And they're actually, with the way the Browns are, they might have to fight to maintain their division lead. So, T-Bone, your thoughts?
This one's pretty self-explanatory. I got the Ravens. I just think they're more put together than the Jags.
I also have the Baltimore Ravens going into Jacksonville and getting the job done. While I think Jacksonville can put up a pretty good fight, I think Baltimore is just playing too good right now for them to be able to overcome. And finally, Monday Night Football. We've got ourselves the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. The Seahawks coming off of a tough loss against the San Francisco 49ers, in which they put up a bit of a fight, but overall weren't able to do enough. Fall by 12, and it's been an up-and-down year for Seattle. Started off pretty good, fell off, came back a little bit, starting to fall off a bit again, but an opportunity against a struggling Eagles team to maybe put themselves back in the playoff conversation. Whereas the Eagles coming off their second blowout loss, first the 49ers, then to the Cowboys, so they're having a bit of an identity crisis right now, losing to two of the best teams in the league, and really the big question is, are they legit? And the last 2 weeks would tell you no, but this is a really, really, really big game for them, especially if they want a chance at reclaiming their division lead. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I've got the Eagles. I don't know. I just think these last 2 weeks are gonna have woken them up, and they're gonna go in and gonna do some business.
I think that the Philadelphia Eagles will also get the win here. I think they're gonna have the bounce back week that they need, and I think Seattle's just the team that's in the way. I actually think this is gonna be a very close and very entertaining game, but I do see Philly getting it done. Alrighty, that is all of the games that are going to be played for this week. Please be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Feel free to drop your own predictions or anything else you'd like. We would love to hear what you all have to say. And that is going to do it for us today. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please be sure to hit the like button. Please be sure to subscribe. And we will see you all in the next video.